Hello, Matthew. Nice seeing you today. This is a video from today's inspection and your sewer scope. There's that floor cleanouts. Um, Typical brass cleanout cover. This one was easy to get off, so you can tell that they've accessed this line at some point, maybe to do some cleaning. It's hard to say. A lot of times those brass covers have been on there for multiple decades, and it's really hard to get them off. We're in cast iron pipe, good quality cast iron pipe. Some normal corrosion, some thicker corrosion as we get out, but all in all, it's in good shape. No issues. It's a relatively smooth run. It's a fairly decent drop from start to finish. I can't put a number on it, but you can tell the downturns, and of course the overall length of the run. It'll be 165 feet or so. It's solid all the way through. You've got one low spot coming up here in a little bit in the cast iron section, but nothing too crazy, nothing that I would really be concerned about. No indication of any circumferential cracks or any kind of separation or damage. Cast iron they're generally 4-foot lengths of pipe connected, so you generally don't see any root growth coming into cast iron. If you do, if there is heavy root growth, then you know that there's probably a crack, and you've got an issue there. Really, the biggest thing with cast iron is that it is rough, coarse on the inside. The material corrodes, or the pipe corrodes on the interior. Here's that low spot that I was talking about. So it gets bumpy over time, and it has a tendency to grab onto things, paper products, things like that. So if you do have any bigger lips or offsets in the connection point, sometimes you have a tendency to catch that stuff, and it'll maybe create kind of a little damming effect. But nothing crazy here at all. Like I was saying earlier today, it's very typical for us in our area to have sewer line runs from anywhere from probably 80 feet to 100, 110. Rarely you'll see 120. Once you get out into the country or bigger properties set back further from the road, you might have longer runs. But this one, a city property, being 165 feet is definitely not the norm. It's not a defect, it's just something to be mindful of, knowing that you own this entire length of pipe. Connections are good, everything's free flowing. I've got water running just to help me push through the pipe, but I didn't have any issues whatsoever. That's likely a clean out, an access point. Nice. It's probably in the street or close to the street at this point. Here's our connection to clay. So it is very common around us that once we get underneath the city street, it turns over to clay. As they do improvements to their infrastructure, as they tear up the streets, a lot of times they'll replace older pipes. There's a little bit of root growth right there. They'll tear up the old pipe and replace it with clay. More root growth right here. If it's a recent redo, then they'll replace it with plastic pipe, but we're not there yet on this pipe. Very good shape. Some root growth. I would be mindful of that. It's just in a couple of places, 2 or 3 places, but still you might want to check back in a year and a half, 2 years. More root growth right there. That might be Oh, it's probably roots. And here's the city connection. Um, you might want to check back just because you don't have any known history on the pipe on how regularly the roots grow or how quickly the roots will grow back. So touching base again in another couple of years just to see would be a good idea. Um, you're far enough out where even if you do have some bigger root growth and it is catching paper, it would take a lot for it to back up, 140 feet, 130 feet. It's very rare that that would happen. But check back in a couple of years. Again, it's just that one or two spots or three spots that you might want to look at again. So I'm going to keep my camera rolling as I pull back. Feel free to watch the return trip if you want, and as always, reach out to me with any questions that you might have.